Sure.
Here's the first section of your story. The moment Emily suggested opening the marriage, something in my gut told me things would never be the same again. We had been together for 10 years, built a life, a home, and shared countless memories. I thought we were happy. Sure, we had our ups and downs like any couple, but I never imagined she would sit me down one evening, her expression unreadable, and say the words that would shake the foundation of our marriage. "I've been thinking," she began, swirling the wine in her glass. "About us. About our relationship." I set my fork down, studying her face. There was something different in her eyes, something calculating. "Okay, what about it?" She exhaled and leaned forward. "I love you, but I feel like we're stuck in a routine. I think we need to explore new experiences. I don't want us to grow resentful or bored with each other." A sick feeling coiled in my stomach. "Emily, what are you saying?" "I think we should try an open marriage," she said, her tone too casual for the bomb she had just dropped. "Just for a little while. To see if it helps reignite things between us." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The woman who once told me she could never even imagine being with another man was now suggesting we invite others into our relationship. And something about her choice of words, just for a little while made me suspicious. It didn't sound like she was making a suggestion. It sounded like she was setting the stage for something that had already been in motion. "Where is this coming from?" I asked, my voice tight. She shrugged. "I've just been reading a lot about it. You know, how modern relationships evolve. A lot of couples say it makes their marriages stronger." I leaned back, crossing my arms. "Emily, be honest with me. Is there someone else?" Her reaction was just a little too quick. "No.
God, no."
I think it could be good for us." I stared at her, my mind racing. Maybe I was paranoid. Maybe she genuinely believed what she was saying. But my instinct screamed that something wasn't right. I thought about all the little changes lately, the late-night texts she didn't explain, the sudden enthusiasm for going to work events, the way she had started putting more effort into her appearance even when she was just heading to the office. And yet, I found myself nodding slowly. "You're saying this is just an experiment?" She smiled, relief washing over her face. "Exactly. No pressure, just seeing how we feel." I forced a tight smile, though every fiber of my being was resisting. "All right, if that's what you want." Her smile widened, and she reached across the table to squeeze my hand. I promised this would be good for us. But I already knew the truth. She wasn't opening the marriage to explore anything with me. She was opening it because she had someone in mind already. Here's the second section of your story. It didn't take long for my suspicions to be confirmed. Emily had always been an affectionate person, but after our agreement, she became strangely detached. No jealousy, no questions about whether I was seeing anyone. It was as if she had flipped a switch, and I was no longer a factor in her world. At first, I pretended not to notice. I wanted to see just how far she would go, how reckless she would become. But deep down, it tore me apart. Every night, she came home later and later, always with an excuse. Dinner with the team ran late, drinks with the girls. Work emergency. She was lying badly. And the worst part? She wasn't even trying to hide it. One night, as she was getting ready for yet another work dinner, I watched her from the doorway. She had spent nearly an hour perfecting her makeup, styling her hair, and picking out a dress that I knew she had never worn for me before. "You look nice," I said, keeping my tone casual. She glanced at me in the mirror, lips curving into a half-smile. "Thanks." "Who's going to be there?" I asked, testing her. She hesitated, just for a second, before turning back to the mirror. "The usual team. A few people from the office." That was the final nail in the coffin. Because earlier that day, I had received a text from her coworker, Mark, a guy I barely knew but who apparently thought I deserved the truth. "Hey man, I don't know if this is my place, but I thought you should know. Emily has been getting really close with Richard. I saw them leave together last night. Alone." Richard. Her boss. The guy she had been gushing about for months. "He's so brilliant," she would say. "So ambitious."
It made me sick just thinking about it.
So I did what any man in my position would do. I dug deeper. I started small, checking her social media for clues. Then, I went through our shared bank account and found charges for luxury restaurants I had never been invited to, expensive lingerie I had never seen her wear, and worst of all, 2 plane tickets for a weekend trip to a 5-star resort. The second ticket wasn't for me. I clenched my jaw as the realization set in. She hadn't just opened our marriage, she had used it as a cover for her affair. And now, she was planning to spend an entire weekend in paradise with Richard, while I sat at home like a fool. But she underestimated me. If she thought she could lie to my face and get away with it, she was dead wrong. Because, while she was planning her little getaway, I was already planning something of my own. And when the time came, she wouldn't see it coming. Here's the third section of your story. I spent the next few days carefully setting my plan into motion. Emily thought she had everything under control, that I was the clueless, compliant husband who had accepted her open marriage nonsense without question. She had no idea I was 3 steps ahead. First, I needed proof, real, undeniable evidence of her betrayal. I hired a private investigator, a guy named Davis, who came highly recommended for situations like this. I didn't even have to give him much information. Within 24 hours, he sent me photos of Emily and Richard at a rooftop bar, hands intertwined, whispering into each other's ears like teenagers in love. Another set of pictures showed them slipping into his car and driving straight to his luxury condo. That was all I needed. The next phase of my plan was more delicate. I reached out to Richard's wife, Lauren. Unlike Emily, she wasn't a fool. In fact, when I met her for coffee under the guise of a business networking opportunity, I could tell right away that she had her own suspicions. It only took one mention of Richard's frequent business trips for her to stiffen. "You have something to tell me, don't you?" she asked, watching me closely. I slid my phone across the table. "I thought you should see this." She picked it up, scrolled through the photos, and then she laughed. Not out of amusement, but pure, venomous disbelief. "That son of a bitch." She looked up at me, her expression unreadable. "So, what do you want out of this?" "Justice," I said simply. "I want them to suffer the consequences of their choices." Lauren nodded slowly, setting down the phone. "I'm in." With her on my side, things became much easier. Lauren was powerful, well-connected, and most importantly, vindictive. She had enough dirt on Richard to make his life a living hell, and she wasn't afraid to use it. But my revenge wasn't just about Richard. I wanted Emily to feel the full weight of her betrayal. So, while she was busy packing for her weekend getaway, I was busy destroying her future. I contacted an old friend in HR at her company and casually mentioned that Richard was having an affair with an employee. In any other workplace, that might have been gossip, but in their firm, where strict anti-fraternization policies were in place, it was a death sentence. By Friday afternoon, just hours before Emily and Richard's flight, an internal investigation had been launched. Richard was informed that he would be placed on immediate leave pending review. His entire career was suddenly hanging by a thread. And Emily? She had no idea what was coming. That evening, as she stood by the door with her suitcase, she gave me a fake smile. "I'll be back Sunday night." I returned her smile with one of my own. "Take your time. No rush." She had no clue that by the time she returned, her world would be in ruins. Here's the fourth and final section of your story. Emily's weekend of passion was supposed to be her great escape. 2 days of luxury, romance, and secrecy with her boss. But when she landed at the resort, she was in for a rude awakening. Richard's phone was blowing up the moment they checked in. His company had officially launched an internal investigation into his misconduct, and employees were already whispering about his inappropriate relationship with a subordinate. His boss had sent a strongly worded email, making it clear that the board was furious. Lauren didn't waste time either. While Richard was off ruining his career, she was meeting with the best divorce lawyer in town, ensuring she would walk away with most of his assets. She even filed an emergency order to freeze their joint accounts. So there he was, sitting by the infinity pool of a 5-star resort, but instead of enjoying himself, He was frantically making calls, trying to salvage what was left of his life. Emily, of course, had no idea at first. She thought the worst of it was Richard being distracted, but by the second day, his mood had soured completely. He barely spoke to her. When she pressed him about what was wrong, he snapped. "Everything is wrong. I just lost my goddamn job, Emily." She blinked.
What? How?
"Because of this," he hissed, gesturing between them. "Because someone reported us. You know what this means? My career is over. My wife is divorcing me, and I have no access to my accounts." Emily paled. "Your wife?" "She knows," he muttered, rubbing his temples. "She knows everything." That's when reality started to hit her. The fantasy she had been living, the thrilling, secret affair, was over. It wasn't exciting anymore. It was real, and it was crashing down around her. And then, when she checked her own phone, she saw an email from HR. She was fired. The company had made an example out of her, too. Even though she wasn't in a leadership position, she had knowingly engaged in a workplace affair with a superior, and that was enough for them to cut ties. Her dream job?
Gone.
Her future with Richard?
Destroyed.
And it got worse. When she arrived home Sunday night, still reeling from the disaster that was her romantic weekend, she found the house empty. My clothes?
Gone.
My things? Packed up. I had moved out while she was away. But that wasn't all. Sitting on the kitchen counter was a neatly stacked pile of evidence, printouts of her bank statements, the flight tickets, the photos of her and Richard. At the very top was a single sheet of paper. Our divorce papers. When she saw them, she gasped, her hands shaking as she flipped through the documents. And then she saw the note I had left for her, written in the same casual tone she had used when she first suggested opening our marriage. "You wanted freedom, Emily. Now you have it. Enjoy." She called me 6 times in a row. I didn't answer. She texted me. "We need to talk. Please don't do this." But I didn't respond. Because as far as I was concerned, she had already made her choice. And now, she had to live with it.